Welcome back to the ZBCN Today, everyone. So let's start right from the top. Over the past 12 months, Coinbase-linked wallets have collectively bought nearly 6.88 billion Zebec tokens. That's roughly 21.4 million USD, at an average price of about $0.0031, which, funnily enough, is right around where Zebec's been trading in recent days. Think about that. A year-long accumulation right in the stable, quiet price range that retail tends to ignore. They weren't buying when the chart was mooning, they were buying in silence, while the rest of the market was distracted. This is the kind of methodical accumulation that only institutions or large exchanges pull off when they're positioning for future liquidity needs. And this isn't speculation, it's verifiable. Every single token movement is visible on the Solana chain. When you check the Onchain data, you can see that the total Coinbase-linked holdings now sit around 5.2 billion ZBCN, equal to about $17 million USDs at the current price of $0.00324. That's spread across 27-plus labeled wallets, all of which have been independently tracked and confirmed by on-chain analytics platforms. This is not user deposit data. This is accumulation, plain and simple. This content is for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be taken as financial advice. Always do your own research before making investment decisions. When you look at how these holdings are distributed, the pattern gets even clearer. Coinbase One, the main labeled wallet, holds around 1.8 billion ZBCN, which is about $6 million in value. Then there's Coinbase Prime, their institutional arm, holding another 1.22 billion, roughly $4 million worth. And if you dig deeper, you'll find about 25 hot wallets collectively holding 2.2 billion ZBCN, valued at around $7 million. That means roughly 85% of all these holdings are sitting in just the top 5 wallets. That's not retail distribution, that's staging. This is exactly how major exchanges prepare for new listings: consolidate, test liquidity, align internal wallet infrastructure, and quietly stockpile enough supply to handle trading once the asset goes public. It's the classic pre-listing footprint we've seen countless times before, from Pyth to Jito to Arweave. Now, if we line this activity up against the calendar, it becomes even more compelling. The largest inflows happened on October 29th, when 1.2 billion Zebec flowed directly from Crypto.com to Coinbase wallets. Then between November 1st and November 9th, another 980 million arrived. Go back a bit and you'll see 572 million on August 15th and 300 million on July 29th. The trend is consistent. Large inflows, almost no outflows. When exchanges are just providing custody, you'll see regular movement in and out as clients deposit and withdraw. But here, nothing leaves. That means these aren't client holdings. They're inventory. Coinbase is clearly preparing liquidity reserves. When you zoom out, the intent starts to form a pattern: quiet staging ahead of compliance approval and a potential listing window that aligns with broader regulatory milestones. So why now? Why is Coinbase building exposure at this specific moment? The answer lies partly in regulation and timing. Zebec was listed on Kraken on October 15th, which led to an immediate 30% pump in its price. That listing didn't come out of nowhere. It followed Zebec achieving SOC 2 compliance in September 2025, plus full ISO 2022 and MiCA readiness for the European regulatory framework that kicks in this November 22nd. In other words, Zebec became one of the very few projects in the payment streaming category to check every single compliance box at once. And when that happens, exchanges like Coinbase take notice. They're not just looking for hot narratives. They're looking for assets that can operate within US and EU legal frameworks without risk. Zebec is now one of them. Combine that with its real-world utility, streaming payroll for major enterprises like Walmart, Mastercard, and Xero, and launching mainstream marketing collaborations with NBA and NHL campaigns, and suddenly the picture sharpens. This is the kind of project Coinbase loves to onboard: compliant, real-world oriented, and backed by institutional investors they already work with. Which brings us to an even more overlooked but critical point. Coinbase Ventures itself is an early backer of Zebec. They were there in 2021 during Zebec's initial funding round, alongside Circle, Solana Ventures, and Republic Capital. These are some of the same names that built the foundation for the current Web3 payment ecosystem. When a project you've already invested in becomes compliant, gains market traction, and has active on-chain adoption, listing it isn't a question of if, it's a question of when. That's why analysts are putting the listing probability somewhere between 65 and 75% by Q1 2026, rising to 70 to 80% by December 2025 after MiCA goes live. If it somehow gets delayed to early 2026, the odds jump even higher to 85 to 90%. The logic is simple. By January 2026, Zebec would have been compliant for months, fully tested on Kraken, and sitting in Coinbase wallets ready for launch. That's the exact same timing window that Pyth and Jito followed before their listings. If history is any guide, we know what happens next. The so-called Coinbase effect, the price surge that follows a listing, has historically ranged between 50 to 100% in the days after trading goes live. Some projects even spiked several 100% within weeks. Now, of course, this isn't financial advice, and nothing here guarantees performance, but the correlation is undeniable. The listings spark liquidity, media coverage, and new retail inflows. It's the same story, again and again. What's fascinating this time is how transparent the evidence is. Anyone can verify it. Just go to Zebec's SolScan page, click Holders, and filter for Coinbase-labeled addresses. You'll literally see billions in live transactions. Track the flows on Onchain, follow the alerts from Zebec Manbot, and you'll witness the inflows in real time. You don't need insider info. The blockchain already tells the story. Now let's talk about the visual evidence circulating on X. Screenshots of these wallets show staggering numbers. Coinbase Hot Wallet 4 received nearly $1 million worth of Zebec in one transaction. Coinbase Hot Wallet 3 took in around $700,000. Coinbase One added nearly $500,000 in a single day. Every one of these movements was captured, timestamped, and cross-verified. And just as important as the inflows are the outflows, or the lack of them. These wallets barely move any tokens out. They're holding, not distributing. That's how you know it's accumulation. For anyone still skeptical, it's worth noting that this exact wallet behavior occurred with Pyth and Jito about 5 to 6 weeks before their listings. The playbook is repeating almost line for line. But here's another layer that makes the whole thing even more interesting: the Kraken connection. Historically, when Kraken lists a new asset, Coinbase almost always follows. Then, in many cases, Binance joins in afterward. Why? Because Kraken is often the first exchange to complete deep regulatory due diligence. They're effectively the gatekeeper for U.S. institutional listings. If you make it onto Kraken, it signals that you've cleared most of the compliance hurdles that Coinbase cares about. Think of Kraken as the heavy lifting department, the exchange that handles the legal groundwork, audits, and compliance filings, while Coinbase is the executive branch that scales that listing to a broader retail audience. Coinbase can then move quickly and confidently, knowing Kraken has already vetted the project. That's why, time and again, Kraken's listings serve as the canary in the coal mine for Coinbase. Zebec fits that timeline perfectly. Meanwhile, the community is lighting up with energy. On social media, Zebec content has exploded. The hashtag Zebec has been trending with posts pulling tens of thousands of views. One viral thread showing these wallet screenshots hit 15,000 views and over 250 likes within hours. The narrative is spreading, and this time it's not just retail hype. Even analytics accounts like Onchain, Nansen Alerts, and DeFi Llama have validated the wallet data. The sentiment is shifting from rumor to recognition. People are starting to understand that Zebec isn't a meme coin pump. It's a legitimate infrastructure layer for real-world financial streaming. The overlap with PayFi, DePIN, and RWA, real-world assets, makes it uniquely positioned to thrive in the next phase of blockchain adoption, the one focused on tangible utility, not speculation. The deeper you look, the more sense it makes. Zebec is solving a very specific and valuable problem: moving money continuously on-chain for payrolls, vendor payments, and microtransactions. It's building rails that can serve both individuals and enterprises in real time with full auditability. That's the direction regulators want the industry to go. Coinbase knows this. They've been steering their business toward tokenized finance and compliance-ready assets. Zebec fits perfectly into that future. For Coinbase, listing Zebec wouldn't just be about trading volume, it would be strategic, complementing their efforts with USDC, Base, and Layer 2 payment infrastructure. It creates a bridge between their fiat clients and Web3 settlements. And the fact that they already hold millions in Zebec tokens gives them an incentive to make that ecosystem grow. Let's talk about psychology for a moment. Many traders see all this evidence and still hesitate. They want to wait for the official announcement. But that hesitation is exactly what keeps retail investors behind institutions. The big players act on evidence and probability, not certainty. They accumulate before the press release. By the time the news breaks, the price is already gone. It's the same story with every major coin that's run before. Think about Solana in 2021. Think about Arweave, Pyth, or even Chainlink during their pre-listing periods. The signs were all there, but few paid attention until after the fact. Zebec feels like one of those setups, a quiet accumulation phase that will look obvious only in hindsight. Of course, nothing in crypto is guaranteed. You still need to do your own research, verify addresses, and manage risk. But probabilities matter. When you see 6.8 billion tokens bought, 27 Coinbase wallets consolidating, regulatory green lights flashing, and a historical pattern that's never failed in this context, it's hard not to lean bullish. And that's the mindset difference between waiting for confirmation and recognizing opportunity. Conviction doesn't mean blind faith. It means acting when the odds and evidence align. Zooming out even further, Zebec's ecosystem is expanding fast. The project has launched new regional partnerships in Asia and Europe, offering APIs for payroll streaming and cross-border settlements. It's also integrating multi-chain support beyond Solana, including compatibility with EVM chains. These developments are quietly positioning Zebec as a real-world payment network, not just another DeFi token. That's why regulators actually view Zebec more favorably than typical DeFi protocols, because it directly connects to real-world activity like salary disbursement and merchant payouts. It's tangible. Combine that with its DePIN ambitions, where real physical payment terminals and IoT devices connect to Zebec streams, and you have a project that's bridging the digital and physical economies in ways few others are attempting. So, what comes next? If we project based on historical timelines, we might see subtle signs around mid-December 2025. Perhaps an internal asset tag appearing on Coinbase's API, maybe even a database test listing like we saw with Jito. That would align perfectly with the 6 to 8 week pre-launch pattern. If that happens, full trading could easily go live by the end of 2025, just in time for the yearly Coinbase market refresh. That would make Zebec one of the most fundamentally validated mid-caps heading into 2026, supported by compliance, partnerships, and verified on-chain accumulation. At the end of the day, the message here is simple. The blockchain tells the truth. The wallets don't lie. Coinbase is accumulating Zebec like it accumulated Solana before the 2021 explosion. The same signals are flashing again. Quiet inflows, consolidation, compliance, and confidence. Whether you're already holding or still watching from the sidelines, this is the moment to pay attention. Not to chase hype, but to understand the pattern unfolding in real time. This is ZBCN Today, bringing you clarity in a world of crypto noise. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our deep dive on Zebec's next phase and other projects shaping the future of Web3. Until next time, stay sharp, stay patient, and as always, stay ahead with ZBCN Today.